Netflix added iCarly. I repeat, Netflix added iCarly. And oh boy, am I thriving. I love iCarly. Although, I will say rewatching it makes me a little bit uncomfy with what we know now about Dan Schneider. And also with what Jeanette McCurdy, who played Sam, said about the trauma she has from being a child actor.
I guess we'll never know. Just another one champion.
But this video is not about that. No. This video is about something a little bit more fun. Because today, we are looking at influencer marketing through the lens of iCarly. We're gonna see what iCarly got right about real influencer marketing, and we're gonna see, I'm reading off the script, I'm not even gonna pretend I tried to memorize this. We're gonna see what iCarly got right about real life influencer marketing, and if the advertisements that Carly and her friends did in the web show would hold up in today's internet culture, and if they would be legal in today's internet culture, because I think the TechFoot sponsorship thing would be illegal with today's rules of the internet. But I am getting ahead of myself. To put it simply, we're talking about these shoes. But first, I feel like I should explain the basic plot of iCarly, because though I grew up with Carly and her friends' zany antics, there are unfortunately some people that did not. First of all, what are you doing? Secondly, iCarly's on Netflix, have you heard? And thirdly, iCarly is about a girl named Carly who starts a web show with her friends Sam and Freddie. Yeah. And so Carly and her friends, their web show becomes insanely popular and they get many opportunities. They have fans. They collab with pretty famous people, ranging from Fred to One Direction. I want to collab with One Direction. A really interesting thing, though, is real YouTubers did collab with One Direction. I mean, Dan and Phil didn't really collaborate with One Direction, but there are pictures of Dan and Phil in One Direction, and as someone who grew up with the internet and like when Dan and Phil and One Direction was popular, you know, we love to see it. We love to see it. They had a very, very short-lived TV show which didn't do very well. I am going to be making a video about that later, I think. That these are opportunities that real influencers get. Yeah, it's really interesting to rewatch iCarly because when iCarly was coming out, the internet was so new that a lot of their stuff was guesswork. But it's really interesting to see what iCarly got right about the modern internet, which is one of the funky fresh reasons why we're doing this video. I need to stop saying funky fresh, but I look funky fresh, so. This video is about their sponsorship for a feet technology company. Hi, Dan Schneider. Hate that you're here, but what can we do? This iCarly episode aired in March of 2008. Now, what I find really interesting about iCarly is how early the internet was when it was first airing. I mean, YouTube only started in 2005, right? And it had only been a platform for 3 years at the airing of this episode. While now, a lot of kids, oh my gosh, 57% of kids get all their entertainment primarily from YouTube. In 2008, most of us kids, I guess I'm not a kid anymore, huh? R.I.P. my childhood, but most kids still watched traditional television, Nickelodeon, or occasionally when SpongeBob or Dora wasn't on, the Disney Channel. And in 2008, the most popular YouTube channels were Fred and Smosh, and no hate, but honestly, I'd rather watch Good Luck Charlie over OG YouTube any day. Oops. iCarly aired in the early days of the internet. YouTube had just started their partner program in 2018. So for the first time ever, people were starting to get monetized for their content. This was also the first time ever that YouTubers and creators on this platform could see their analytics, which means they could start knowing what their videos, which one of their videos were doing the most well, the search terms that these videos had that were getting searched up the most, and also probably how we started seeing a lot of similar content. one person copying another, chasing the algorithm. That's probably when all this started, because you could start to see the analytics and be like, all my videos about watermelons are super popular, my videos not about watermelons aren't. Okay, I'll only make videos about watermelons. That was a bad example, but you could see your analytics for the first time. While today, I could name about 30 people right off the top of my head who make their main source of income off of YouTube. Back then, making a living off of YouTube was really not a thing. iCarly didn't really have a lot to go off of in terms of internet popularity, so they just kind of made it up. And they got actually a lot of stuff right. They also got bad sponsorships right, because there are a lot of similarities between iCarly's TechFook sponsorship and one of the very first YouTube sponsorships. One of the very first YouTube sponsorships was between an MP3 player called Zoov, I'm gonna say Zoov, it's spelled Z-V-U-E, and the YouTube channel Smosh. Now, they advertised it in this short sketch called Feet for Hands. And it was about this guy who was like really sad because he had feet for hands. And then at the end, he was like, but my life is so good now because I have this MP3 player. This is slightly bigger than an MP3 player, but you catch my drift. I don't think it was as controversial as iCarly's sponsorship because I was not able to find much research on it. But I think it's interesting because in the modern lens, both iCarly's sponsorship and Smosh's sponsorship with the Zoov would technically be illegal. But I'm getting ahead of myself because before there were FTC complaints, there were tech foots. So let's take a break from looking at old YouTube and start diving into Carly's sponsorship. Carly's chilling at Spencer's, eating some Canadian bacon, and they get an email from a shoe company. And they want to work with Carly and their gang to promote the new shoes. And so they go on down to the shoe headquarters. Now, I think in real life, most YouTube sponsorships happen remotely through phone or for email, but it makes better television for them just to go down to the headquarters and negotiate instead of doing it online. So I can't really blame them for that. In-person meetings aren't that common though. And the first thing that happens at this meeting that I want to talk about is Sam pulls the members of iCarly to the side and she's like, how much should we get paid? Like, how much money are we asking for here? They start really, really undervaluing themselves. Now I think this is interesting because they are super, super undervaluing themselves. Earlier in this episode, it's been established that Carly and her friends average 300,000 viewers per live stream. To put this in perspective, Ninja, who is one of the most popular streamers on Twitch, averages around 11,000 viewers per stream. And in his height, in April of 2020, he averaged around 125,000 viewers per stream. Nowhere close to Carly and her friends. So it seems weird to me that they're undervaluing themselves this much because they are literally bigger than Ninja. I guess it makes sense, since a lot of YouTubers state that they regret their first sponsorships and they feel like they were used or taken advantage of because they undervalued themselves or allowed other people to undervalue them. And I think that this undervaluing cycle happens because we all just start creating content for free and with no viewership or a very, very small channel. To accompany a channel with no viewership or a very, very small viewership would be of less value than a big channel because there are less people for the small channel to advertise to. And with the way the algorithm works, it is not uncommon for channels to blow up overnight. So let's say tomorrow I gain 27 billion subscribers. Suddenly I become very, very valuable to companies. But right now, I am sitting at 36 subscribers. Please subscribe to me. And I have no value to companies. I'm too small. They would not sell products if they invested money into me. But if I had 27 billion subscribers, I would suddenly become one of the most valuable people on the internet. And I think that would make it hard for me to understand my true value. I went from being worth nothing to being one of the most valuable investments on the internet. So I do think this is a big reason why smaller content creators or people who gained a really large following practically overnight, like Carly and her friends did, tend to undervalue themselves when it comes to sponsorships. They go from not having any value to companies to being very, very valuable to companies. And I think sometimes companies know this and take advantage of small creators not knowing very much. Basically, I'm saying value yourself as a small creator because according to an article by Insider, in 2019, companies spent more than $8 billion on influencer marketing. So trust me, you are worth more than pennies. And I honestly do think, unless you are sitting pretty at 36 subscribers like me, you should definitely ask for more than $50 for a sponsorship. When Sam demands $100, the good old folks at Deca Footwear think she means $100,000. And they're like, okay, you could have $100,000, which I still think might be undervaluing them just a little bit. Again, they are more popular than Ninja. They signed a 1-year contract with Deca. And this is definitely a thing that YouTubers do, like sign longer term contracts. If you see the same YouTuber making 50 bajillion sponsored posts for the exact same product, they probably signed a contract that said they would do more than one advertisement instead of having to go through the whole process again and again every time the company wanted to tell them about it. They probably signed for a specific number of ads. Or maybe like Carly and her friends, they signed a yearly contract, a bi-yearly contract, maybe a monthly contract. Maybe for this month, you will advertise houseplants for us. You will do 3 videos, 3 ad reads. Here's the money, we will pay for that. And that's what the contract will kind of look like. And also, many companies will have the influencers or YouTubers sign an exclusivity agreement. For example, if you hear a YouTuber talking about a VPN, they are probably not going to be allowed to talk about another VPN the entire time they're sponsored with that VPN. Sometimes the exclusivity contract might be a bit longer, so I couldn't be like, this houseplant's great, and then immediately after my sponsorship's over, I advertise another houseplant and go, this houseplant's the best houseplant I've ever seen in my entire life. So the exclusivity contract might be longer than the actual brand deal. What I think is interesting about Carly's contract with TechFoots is that Carly and her friends are minors. And in Seattle, Washington, it is illegal for minors to sign contracts. The contract wouldn't be valid and the contract would be voidable. And I think this can lead us to a very interesting conversation about kids on YouTube. Because due to the confusing way that AdSense works, very few people actually understand it. And when people try to talk about it, they get a lot wrong. So I'm not even gonna open that can of worms, but most of the money in YouTube is from sponsorships, and YouTube kids can make millions and $1 million off of YouTube. And with AdSense not always being a for sure or stable source of income, there is no doubt in my mind that these kids are taking sponsorships, or their parents are taking sponsorships for them, because I could not find a state of my research that allows minors to sign contracts in the United States. Maybe it's different in other places, but it's likely the parents making these sponsorships work and happen behind the scenes, because these kids cannot sign contracts. I mean, they could, but the contracts wouldn't be legally binding, and I think that would kind of defeat the whole point. I think that advertisers would clearly want to work with the parents, because kids are not fully capable of understanding all that goes into that brand deals and the contracts and all that stuff. But I also do think that parents in these situations have a higher responsibility to the children, because again, the children aren't fully developed up here. They can't go and do the correct research to make sure the company is reputable and not a scam. A big part of the discourse around kids on YouTube is, it is assumed, and probably most often true, that kids do not have a full control over their YouTube careers. They can't edit their videos to that good of a standard. Thinking about the YouTube channel I had when I was 12 was not good. If these kids are making millions and millions of dollars a year, it can probably be assumed that these kids are their family's primary source of income, which is kind of a lot of pressure to put on a kid. And also, like, what if the kid quits or that decides they don't want to do it anymore? Would they be allowed to walk away if they wanted to, if they are making the money for their family? Because I know a lot of people who watch kids on YouTube are either creeps like Dan Schneider or other kids. And there are very, very specific ways you have to advertise to kids due to some FTC regulations we're going to talk about later. Because I want to believe that these parents would take sponsorships that aren't scammy and aren't preying on their young audiences, but also these parents put their kids on YouTube for what? Probably profit, probably to squeeze as much money out of them as possible. I don't like being cynical, but I doubt that these parents are going to do the correct research to make sure the businesses that they are advertising aren't scams or predatory. And what happens if this kid grows up and realizes, oh shoot, I'm advertising a scam, but then they're in a contract with this business that they can't get out of? I don't know. Yeah, and so these kids can be stuck in contracts with really shady companies, which ends up becoming Carly's situation. Luckily, Carly has consented to being on the internet. Can't say that every child actor in iCarly wanted to be there. Allegedly. I mentioned that Carly's contract was bad, so I wanted to talk about the terms of the contract. I'm gonna be reading heavily off of this because there's a lot of math and I'm so bad at math. So it was a contract for a year, and it was $100,000 contracts for the whole year with monthly installments of $8,000. 8,000 times 12 is actually $96,000. So unless Carly and her friends got a signing bonus or an advance for $4,000, it's not actually a $100 contract. I do think it's possible that they could have got a signing bonus or something, make it look shinier and a better opportunity, but also, Carly and her friends are told to mention tech quotes in every live broadcast they do, and they do weekly live broadcasts. There are 52 weeks in a year, which puts the value on each weekly ad read at $1,846 with 15 cents, which I guess isn't too shabby for one ad read, oh my god. But since in this universe, iCarly is the biggest channel, I guess, on the whole internet, we looked at the numbers before. They are bigger than Ninja. They could be making more, probably. But then again, this was 2008, and companies were not pouring billions and billions of dollars into influencer marketing yet. And if this was the first time that this shoe company was working with influencers, it's understandable that they would not know how it would go, and they would want to play it safe so they wouldn't lose money, as it is estimated that companies lose about $1.3 billion to influencer marketing in a year. And this happens because sometimes influencers have botted followings. They've bought their followers. They're not actually as big as they look. Anyways, it's not mentioned if Carly and her friends split the money or are paid individually. I assume that they're paid collectively and have to split it among each members, which means $615 per ad read, which again is not too shabby. And then it would be $32,000 per member for a full year of ad reads, 52 ad reads in total, which in my opinion doesn't sound that great of a deal. I mean, I'd take $615 for an ad read happily, but they're bigger than Ninja. They should probably get paid a little bit more. I don't know. Anyways, Carly and Sam only ever do 2 ad reads because oh boy, does this ad campaign go so badly. Who's ever in charge of advertising at DACA? Girl. Yeah, because guess what? Tech quotes are garbage. They squeak really loudly. They crash Freddie's new laptop. They electrocute Carly and they blow up in a trash can. So yeah, they suck. So rightfully the viewers of iCarly who bought the shoes because Carly and Sam said oh my gosh, we love them, are really pissed because these shoes are safety hazards. Like, how did no one catch that these shoes literally have a tendency to blow up before like making them able to sell? I don't know. I feel like this should have and could have been caught easier, but again, this is a kid show. It's not that deep. Again, it's a kid show, so instead of being called out on Twitter, they're called out at school. One of the girls is like, these shoes suck. I'm never watching iCarly again. And then Sam or Freddie or Carly or someone, honestly, I don't care, goes, well, we didn't sell you the shoes, which I think is really interesting because technically iCarly didn't make the shoes, manufacture them, or provide them for sale. That the people that bought the shoes because they watched iCarly and heard Carly and Sam say that they love the shoes wouldn't have bought the shoes if Carly and Sam didn't advertise them. So Carly and Sam did sell them the shoes. And I think that's a big thing that a lot of influencers need to work on, because while you are not selling the product, you are selling the product, right? You are a mouthpiece for the company. You could be moving product out of their warehouse or wherever they're selling it from. If you advertise a shit product and your audience buys it, it's because you told them to, and I think you need to take a little bit of accountability for that. Anyways, they still have to advertise these shoes because they signed a contract that wasn't legally binding. Yay! But Spencer went to 3 days of law school, and so he knows that minors can't legally sign contracts. Just kidding. They covered that in day 4 of law school. Instead, what Spencer tells them is they can trash talk these shoes as long as they do it in a positive light. And I don't know how positive these shoes catch on fire. How fun! I don't know how positive that is, but it works and they get out of their contract. Woo! This was Carly's sponsorship. It was kind of a hot wreck. Maybe that was just me being a hot wreck, but now we're getting into the fun part. Because what if I told you that in the modern context of today's internet, this sponsorship would have technically been illegal? And not just because Carly and her friends were too young to sign a contract, but also because of the FTC regulations on sponsored content. But to be fair, the Great Mommy Blog Wars of 2012 happened in 2012. 4 years after this episode of iCarly aired. I can make a whole video on the Great Mommy Blog Wars of 2012. But basically, what was happening is mommy blogs were like, oh my god, these diapers are so great. Like, my baby has been having severe diaper rashes, but then we got these diapers and they're so comfortable and they're the best diapers I've ever seen. But like, the whole time, they were sponsored by these diapers. They were getting these diapers for free. They were getting paid by these diaper companies and nobody knew. And the FTC was like, hey, maybe if you're getting diapers for free and you're getting paid by the diaper companies to say all this nice stuff about the diapers, you should really say, oh yeah, I'm being paid by the diaper company, or I'm receiving these products for free. And so now it's kind of a law and commonplace on the internet to do hashtag ad, check the little box that says this content contains an advertisement, and state multiple times this video is sponsored, this content is sponsored, this was paid for. And even if it's not a sponsored video, you still have, if you were sent a product for free and you're using it on camera or posting it on your Instagram story, you still need to say that this was PR, I got this for free. So yeah, a lot of people have got in trouble for misleading people and not saying that it's sponsored. Now Carly and her friends didn't say they were sponsored, even though they obviously were. Oh my gosh, I love TechFoots. Oh my gosh, TechFoots are so great. Oh my gosh, TechFoots. Same with Smosh. Oh my gosh, this MP3 player. But never in the video or the live stream did Smosh or iCarly say that they were sponsored, which in 2008, when both of those sponsorships took place, I guess the iCarly sponsorship was fictional, but it wasn't technically not illegal at the time, but now with new FTC regulations, it would be. Let's use a houseplant as an example again. It's kind of shady that if I'm given this houseplant for free, I just go on and on about how much I love it without telling you, oh, this was a free houseplant, or oh, I'm being paid to talk about this houseplant, which I am not. This houseplant does not want me to talk about it. Okay, goodbye, houseplant. But it was 2008, so Carly and Sam and Smosh saying that they loved a product without saying they were sponsored by it is technically not illegal. But now, today, it would have been. And I think that's all I want to talk about with you today. Yay, we're finally done! Like, subscribe, I don't care, I don't know, watch iCarly or something. Hashtag not sponsored.